A task team has been appointed to lead preparations for South Africa's upcoming national dialogue, which is scheduled for the 15th of August this year. President Cyril Ramaphosa confirmed the date earlier this week, noting that the dialogue will include a series of public engagement sessions which are aimed at addressing key national issues. Today, the preparatory task team held a media briefing in Johannesburg to outline the planning process. I am joined by Lindiwe Gadd, who's the Deputy Chair of the National Dialogue Preparatory Task Team, to tell us a bit more about what to expect. Lindiwe, good to have you on the program this evening. Let's start with the vision. What does success look like for this national dialogue, and how will you measure it?
Success looks like an actionable, comprehensive plan that actually changes the lives of South Africans and the quality of life of South Africans. And that is a plan that needs to be implemented by various stakeholders, government, business, civil society. And that plan will really set South Africa on a course as a successful 21st century country.
But I'm sure you'd agree that there are skeptics from some quarters who fear that this may just end up as just another talk shop. What reassurances can you give South Africans who really doubt whether this process will result in real change?
Thank you for that. And it is understandable that South Africans are skeptical. I think we've become very skeptical and disillusioned with the lot in life that we have after 30 years of democracy. I don't think there's anyone who could really say that this is what the hope of 1994 was. When these calls have been made, and they've been made for a national dialogue or a CODESA 2 for many, many years by South Africans saying something has to change in our country. We then engaged with civil society organizations, and they were very clear that they are absolutely supportive of this. Together with the civil society organizations, we went to government and spoke to the presidency and put it to them that this is an initiative that South Africans are clearly asking for. We obviously cannot do it without government. We cannot do it without the presidency and the head of state. And for the last 9 months, we have been engaging, we have been collaborating with them on this journey and the development of the plans for the national dialogue. So the government has shown an absolute commitment. The president made the announcement on Tuesday, and you will have heard at the end of his statement, he actually said, this will be a plan which will bind all South Africans, all stakeholders. It will bind government and various stakeholders, government, etc., and the private sector as well. So we have no doubt of the commitment of government to see this process successfully forward.
You've been tasked with leading the public engagement process, arguably the most critical part. How will the voices of ordinary citizens then be captured or even reflected in the final plan?
Well, it's been a very interesting week because after the president's announcement, there's been a number of people calling into radio, on social media, commentators. And the broad South African community is not saying we do not want this. What they are saying is we want to be we want to be at the table. We want to make sure that the homeless are represented. We want to make sure that the youth are represented. And to us, that says that people do want to engage in these conversations. So what we need to do, which is the first national convention, and that is the first step, which the president has announced for the 15th of January, that will be with up to 1,000 representatives of all sectors of society. And I'd like South Africans to be assured that we are dedicated to making sure that all sectors, even those who don't typically have a voice, we do not want this to be an elite process. People have asked, will abahlali basemjondolo be involved? Absolutely. Our doors are open, and we have to have that voice at the table. But the true heart of the national dialogue is the public dialogues, the public engagements, which will take place over 6 to 9 months. And we want to ensure that those can take place across the 257 municipalities across the country, so nobody is left behind. We also want to ensure that those dialogues can happen on a virtual platform such as webinars, through social media. We are asking sectors, specific sectors, that they can organize themselves. So this does not necessarily have to be a process that is facilitated for South Africans to engage in this dialogue. But what does need to happen is that those conversations which happen must move up into what will then be the social compact and the 30-year plan of action, which will be the culmination of this process in 9 to 12 months.
Lindiwe, as we wind down our conversation, the National Dialogue aims to create a 30-year action plan. What steps are being taken to then ensure it's not just aspirational, but actually implementable and resourced as well?
It is important that these are translated into actionable plans. And I'll give you an example. If you look at the Gulf states, they made a decision as countries that they were going to change from petro-economies. It didn't happen overnight, but there were actionable plans and there were visions, and there was resourcing behind it. And there was a mobilization of entire countries to ensure that that takes place. And what we do need to do is mobilize South Africa to move out of the quagmire that we find ourselves in. We cannot continue to do things the way that we have done them and hope that the outcomes will be different.
Yeah. So some civil society leaders have raised concerns about funding and the selection of the secretariat of this organization. Can you then update us on how these operational matters are being addressed regarding the forum?
At the heart of the National Dialogue is the preparatory task team. We have been working for the past 12 months. There are 50 organizations who have joined the foundations, and these are community-based and non-NGO organizations. We have also engaged with probably another 150 civil society and NGO organizations, many of whom have actually approached us to say, we've heard about this national dialogue. We do not want to be standing outside the tent left behind. We want to be participants in it, and we want to influence it, and we want to shape it. And we have welcomed all of those invitations, and we are working together with those organizations. And the invitation remains open. Organizations who want to be involved in the national dialogue can reach out to us through the Secretariat at the National Dialogue and put their hands up, and we will embrace any organization who wants to contribute to improving our today and shaping our tomorrow.
Yeah. As we conclude, the Eminent Persons Group also includes well-known South Africans from all walks of life. I mentioned the likes of Siya Kolisi to John Kani. What role do they then play, and how do you ensure they remain grounded in grassroots realities as well?
The role of the Eminent Persons Group is we need to have a grouping of people who have a platform, who have an audience, who have credibility. If you look, for example, at Bishop Liganyane, who heads the Zion Christian Church, there are somewhere between 7 and 9 million members of the Zion Christian Church in South Africa. And so if he puts his weight behind a process like this, his church members are very likely to want to participate because it has the authority of the bishop of the ZCC Church. We're sitting in a situation where last year, 11 million people decided not to vote. 11 million eligible voters did not vote. We have here a church of 7 to 9 million people. I use again the example, many people have raised the question about Siya Kolisi. Siya Kolisi has, through what has been achieved in South African rugby, inspired our country. At the 2023 Rugby World Cup, there were about 11 million South Africans who watched that Rugby World Cup. He has a credibility and a platform, and he is an inspiration to South Africa. So it is those types of people who have been selected, who can really serve as ambassadors and champions of the national dialogue and mobilize people and inspire people to be able to invite them to be part of this process.
Thank you so much for your time. That was Lindiwe Gadd. She's the Deputy Chairperson of the National Dialogue Preparatory Task Team, really helping us unpack what's at stake as South Africa embarks on this bold national reflection. Will this be a turning point or a missed opportunity? Only time and the collective will of the people will certainly tell.